San Marcos. Pick your mochachinos. Yes. They are delicious. Yes, so yeah, welcome to San Marcos Poetry Night.
Yeah.
I am your host.
Yes, you are.
Potato Mike. Michael McClanahan is what I write under, and Potato Mike is what I bullshit under.
Okay.
And,
Potato Mike it is.
Yes. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. Y'all pretty much know how things go, but I'm just going to say it just to say it, in case there's somebody outside that doesn't know what's going on. So this is San Marcos Poetry Night. We meet the first Thursday of every month, right here. We're also on Facebook if you want to find us. And what we do is it's a round robin. You come up here, put your name on the little list, talk to me, and we go up and we have 3 sets. And after that, we have our fill of poetry, everyone's happy, everyone feels good, and we go home, and life is better for all.
Yes.
So, without further ado, I would like to bring up Thom, the world poet, with Scott.
Vanya.
Scott Vanya. All right. Thank you. Give him some love, y'all.
Yay!
We all know each other quite well. 1 degree of separation, like William Blake's Heaven from Hell. Story of innocence, experience. Now everyone tells stories about the past, so I thought I'd turn to the future. Far back I want to go is yesterday. Yesterday was a commemoration of the massacre of perhaps 800 or 900 students in Tiananmen Square. But the significant thing is no one's talking about it, except in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, 95,000 people went out on the streets to say, remember what happened when people wanted freedom of speech. Now in this tiny little room with consenting individuals, we're able to not be shot down, knocked down, put into uniforms and tombs. We're actually able to communicate one-to-one inside a small room. But were we to go out in the square in San Marcos, test the power and say, excuse me sir, we don't need guns, bombs, drones, uniform, that's when the poetry would have to be strong. That's where every line would have to be everyone, holding hands in circles and spirals, and some nebula inside around us that ties us towards the idea that what we're doing is significant and necessary. But that was yesterday. No one talks about Tiananmen Square anymore because you're not allowed to gather at Tiananmen Square, and even if you talk about, you're put in jail over there. Now I don't speak Chinese, ni hao, ni hao. So my friends, reading Chinese takeaway, tell me that there's a lot of Chinese hacking around the place. When we come to today, the 5th of June 2014, is the day where they call Reset the Net. Reset the Net is that every person who has got the capability of making their computer the way under their control rather than under remote control, like that Malaysian jetliner, should reset it so that everything they do is encrypted, all data encrypted. It makes it at least more difficult for the NSA, CIA, FBI, APD, Roman centurion, left brain, regimented way of thinking to access your personal data, which is your personal data. So that's today, that's the 5th of June. Now Sunday, most of us are going to be at stomping grounds where the theme is bucket list. The bucket list. In other words, if this was your last night, if this was your last night on earth, what do you want to do to fulfill your destiny? If suddenly it's all whisked away, there's some irresistible, energetic storm wind. So the bucket list for me is I want to take a selfie in Tiananmen Square. I want there to be freedom for Ukrainians because my friend, who's a Russian writer, who won this incredible literary prize in Moscow, she went back and she's silent now. And I asked her, why are you so silent? You're a writer. And she said, Thom, you don't understand. My father is Russian, my mother's Ukrainian. And then I understood. Because silence is a language too. There's a silence of fear, silence of hesitation. The silence where you do not dare say what you really want to say because you're afraid someone might disagree. We've all had to face that every time we speak. The snapping crocodiles of time steal our tongues and make us less and smaller. But we pump each other up like tires on a bicycle or on a sports car. and suddenly roll down the highway to meet from Victoria and Austin to San Marcos because it's important that we hear each other, because it's important that we be with each other. So we invest in the stock market of the soul, this emotional inventory. We're all stocked up with ideas, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, epiphanies, revelations, illuminations. And we have to share them with someone because we're bursting with ideas at 2 o'clock in the morning, wanting to know what's the right word for my poem. I've got to find the right word for my poem with an urgency that's sort of like demanding, saying, please, what's a word? I want the word that will open my heart and my tongue, the hieroglyph that will say Shazam or abracadabra, which is actually a magic term. And you know poetry is magic. And you know what you make is casting spells. And you know that there's a rune for this room this evening. Well, it belongs to each and every one of you, children of the future.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thom and Scott. I love your messages always.
Real estate.
All right, coming up next we have Louise.
Louise!
Welcome over to the stage, everybody. Yay!
Woo, woo, woo. So this is kind of connected to what Thom said. Almost free. Almost free, Russia and China. We, initial as we are as us, spelled U.S. One thawed from a cold iron monolith, one burst conformity with its merchant heart, and one slowly shrinks back from its best self. The Russian state no longer dictates lives. Blue jeans and poetry and rock and bread are suddenly possible, readily accessible, but don't you dare criticize shirtless leader. Oh, there are still gulags, there is still Siberia. China has lately capitalized its economy, joined and commended the financial world. It has surpassed Japan, is poised to pass us by, yet is still held in the bony grip of the gerontocracy.
Yes.
And liberties are doled out like ration candy.
Yes.
We, us, were the home of the brave, land of the free. All were declared equal, or were becoming so. Rich and poor held the ends of the bell curve, with the great bow of the middle class between. Charity of policy strove to raise the poor upward, and the wealthy, elephant and donkey, hitched in. Now we, us, may be like the old world oligarchies, a small elite with millions, millions with very little, and a dwindling middle of the curve that cannot hold. We will be almost free, free to brandish firearms anyway, free to buy and sell governments if we have the scratch, and free to deny liberty to those among us without means. Yes, we are almost free, Russia and China, and we.
Yeah! Very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Louise. All right, coming up next is this guy, Mike. But to the two gentlemen that just joined, do y'all want to read? Do y'all plan on reading? Do y'all have anything? Here, listen. Awesome. That's great too.
Yeah.
So, coming up next.
Yay, Michael.
Yay, my name is Michael McClendon, aka Potato Mike. Wow, I am just stuttering all over the place.
That's cool.
I've been kind of in a little writing slump. I've been really prolific for the past year or so. And then exactly. And it's one of those times where you have the ideas, but everything you write down, you're just so critical. That voice, you just can't shut it off.
Not good enough.
Yeah, you know, it'll happen. It just sort of loses its power after a certain amount of time. So I'll be reading stuff that good majority of y'all, majority, wow. I should have done some like talking exercises on the drive up here. All right, this is called Little Embers. It began with a little ember I caught of a spark from the filament of your iris. That sea, that web, that portal called the Stargate. From your feet I gathered kindle, so that Ember could have a nest. I placed it in my left breast pocket, where it rested, where it rooted, where it became a phoenix egg. And on the day of your goodbye, I reached for that weight in my pocket. I laid it at the place that you once stood, at the point of our collision, at the point of our cohesion. I followed your instructions and I formed a fire. And with your light that never left me, I lit the first, the best gift you ever gave me. And remembering your present with reverent eyes, I saw a flame rise, I saw a phoenix stoked, I saw little embers break the stars.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Now coming up next we have Robin.
Robin.
Yeah.
My neighborhood that's about to close. The main dining room at the bakehouse appealed to my hibernation instinct. Dark wood made up deep booths, half lit by cheap plastic globes from some past period of world travel. It didn't matter that they weren't current. That was part of the charm. And also, I wouldn't say they were easy to see by. Maps covered the walls in the deadness, and maybe there were a few travel posters thrown in. I just don't remember. I didn't go to the bakehouse often. It combined a higher price range than I was comfortable with a ground beef stroganoff, and mimosas served in iced tea glasses complete with the ice, instead of, say, a champagne bowl or flute. I would read my tarot cards, and although it spoiled the atmosphere, the place must have had Wi-Fi. Because it was full of casual, computer-bound workers drinking mint juleps and iced tea. One day, I never went back after that. One of the waitresses asked me for a reading. I didn't read cards. I only remember two of them. The sun, or great good luck, and the Five of Pentacles, which I saw as being in the past. You worry too much about money and health, I said. Things are looking up now. No, I've really been sick yet, I replied. I'm not used to doing this with my computer here. I can't replace the doctor, I continued, really scared now. I don't think the stress you're placing on this is helping you. The Five of Pentacles shows beggars outside a brightly lit church. She was just staring at that card. It's cardboard, I said. You can still choose the sun. Quietly, she offered me the dessert menu and left the room. While I took the check and someone else handed it to me, I saw I got a 15% discount. I entered it back into the tip, left cash, which I almost never have, and came as close to running away as you can when walking slowly. That's all I really have to say about the bakehouse. It's been bought out and is about to become a 24-hour diner, which will probably have better food. As always, your memories may vary from this account.
All right, coming up next we have Mr. Ray X.
Sunshine.
I've had a hearing problem lately with impacted wax. Am I talking too loud?
Talk it up just a bit.
Sometimes how's that?
That's good.
I think of wax in the ear. I know I didn't start having problems with it until I was 60 or so. I've had it every 2 years since it came out. think of it as a geriatric problem, so I'm going to read a geriatric poem. It's called Remains. I wrote this a few years ago, so some of you will have to excuse me. But anyway, Remains. I've come to the attention of the actuaries, it seems. Yesterday I received an offer in the mail. Free cremation in return for research on my remains. From the cold slab to the blazing kiln, and finally the quiet urn, ash to ashes, as it were. It's probably not so far away, statistics say, but nevertheless, I'll go on, gliding as gracefully as I can through at least one more waltz, aware, yet serenely unaware, that it's only 50-50 that I'll see 2020. A little denial is good for the soul.
Yeah.
Many old friends have gone on before me. 5 of us used to gather annually to sit around a big table and tell stories of the past, bemoan the sorry state of the present, and make dire predictions about the future. Gloom and doom, said the women as they fled the room. But we knew we were onto something. One by one, comrades were struck down. 3 in the last decade of the 20th, that low, dishonest century, while the 4th soldiered on till MMIB. Of the 5, I alone remain. Other friends, lovers, and kin, near and far, have also died. And every day the obituaries tell of someone my age who has sailed for the great beyond. I now have an offer to see me off on my final voyage. I have reservations, you might say. They will even handle the baggage free of charge. Who could resist such a deal?
Yeah.
So what is to be done in the meantime, beyond hoping that the time is not too lean? I can reflect on days gone by, fondling memories of fallen friends. I can pedal my bike to the eternal springs around the falls and let the waters wash away my cares. I can nuzzle a rose or slurp a luscious tomato and let the juice run down my chin. I can cultivate my garden. I can even plant trees. And when my capricious muse agrees, I can scribble such lines as these. I can ease into my chair with a cup of tea and bask in the shades of Tennyson and Bach, Blake and Krishnamurti. I saunter through Indian summer meadows, surrounded by southbound monarchs, fluttering through the undulating grass. A mockingbird sings from the hedgerow. He too will soon be winging it for Mexico. Is that what he's singing about? I tower above the goldenrod on which the butterflies alight. But the next gust of wind could blow me down, I suppose. Should knowing that prevent me from enjoying what remains? It may well be that shadows lengthen as the long day wanes, but it makes for such a lovely golden afterglow. I think I'll have another cup of tea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. All right, and coming up next we have the vocalist Ben Franklin.
Hey. Hungry brother.
Great.
Feathered flight. He was a mighty bird, but try with all his might, he could not take to flight. Such feather fury in such a prairie, it would fly from high perches to propel slideways, then be impelled quickly downward in a mighty hard fall that did thunder dust into the ground, with soft downy plumage flying just everywhere. For within windy gusts they were sent twirling, whirling high, adrift air currents, like helium balloons taking off to unknown. Finally, upon hummingbird propellers,
It stood in place like it was a helicopter going nowhere else. But when gravity didn't let it fall more gently this time, not ruffling tail feathers. Woe was a flightless bird, seeing bird flocks sail high above them. Downtrodden tracks wandered all about. How could one fly? So intense a flight that he tripped into what seemed a hellhole. What a whirlwind blast, when a whirlwind blast took him almost to heaven. And on the way down, one learns quickly how to fly any way possible rather than end up stuck in hell.
All right, coming up next we have Scott. And everyone, this guy, in case you don't know, he is filming all of this.
Yeah.
So if you do not want to be filmed for whatever reason, like you're in witness protection or it'll steal your soul or something like that, just let this guy know and he'll attend to it. So everybody, give it up for Scott. Woo!
It all goes to a website called openmicsaustin.wordpress.com, and the video, the audio will all go up. If you'll come by, you can give me your email and I can notify you when it does. And it's cool, it has an archive of like 50 shows, all those venues around town, and it's a sweet deal.
Awesome.
Thom, is this on? Thom put it well when he said, how do you want to spend your time? Part of me wants to drift off into the next poet that's coming.
Yeah.
Make this poet that's in front of you now some sort of flashlight, maybe a beacon or a telescope that looks forward to what comes next. Not in this moment that we're in right now, but in the one just ahead of us. Could be tomorrow, could be the day after that, could be that second we all go out into the next room to get another coffee or a refill. Maybe this one in front of you will have just a little bit of light to show right in front of you what's coming just in front of us. Sometimes I wonder about all these analogies we make to butterflies and cicadas and cocoons. And then I think about those folks in the Antarctic or the Arctic or the Sahara that ain't seen no such thing. So it calls me back to that thing that says, what is it that's universal? Is it love of family or friend? And I know some people don't even got that to speak of, so we can't talk about that. But it's the within, I think. Then it says, no matter where you are, if you listen really carefully, you can feel the blood pressuring itself against the walls of your skin, and it's all right because it's coming out, no matter how hard you try to resist it.
Yeah.
Maybe this poet in front of you now will say something that makes sense. Maybe it'll click a little dirt off that side of the cave wall inside you, and you'll make something up that doesn't have anything to do with the goddamn thing, but it sounds right. You know, in this moment here we're in now, inside this little tiny room. It's pulse, feel it? Right inside my skin, right inside yours. And I know David Gray said it right. He said, my heart beats on the nerves of the night, so let it come in. Let it not end. Let it begin with all the poets that went before this one here before you now, because he ain't nothing. Just another skin like you. There ain't no use in putting this thing together because it's just blowing apart, you know? Sometimes I think, peace.
All right, thank you. And coming up next, we have Ryan, and this is his first time to read here.
Hey, Ryan!
Brave soul. Alright, I've been here before. I've seen y'all recognize a few y'all. It's not first time. Check. Y'all hear me? Yep. Alright. necessarily traditional poetry, kind of a rant I wrote, actually. It seemed like the proper community for this kind of thing. So.
Don't stop talking.
Alright, not really a title, but just kind of an open letter cover. To those who so wish to take the time to hear me read this letter, you have my utmost respect and gratitude. Too often we get caught up in our busy lives and forget to sit down and really think about what's going on around us. That is precisely why I have sat down to think about the things happening around me, events which have made me most pensive in the past few years. I've been alive for 23 years and 2 months to this exact day of June the 5th, 2014. Not a terribly long time on Earth, but enough time I think to have gained a lively interest in the proceedings of the world. To get right down to it, I would like to address the general apathy I feel exists not only in my immediate social circle, but dare I say, the general apathy that exists across the country. There is in no way this is in no way a politically motivated statement, nor should it be confused for one. I mean to address the lack of interest and passion that I feel persists amongst most every person I talk to about important global and social issues that affect our daily lives. These being the issues of online surveillance and resource stratification, to name a few. However, I today merely ask for your attention concerning the former rather than the latter. Being baptized in the information age is quite unique in my opinion. As a child of 1991, I grew up seeing technology rapidly advance with each year that passed. With the internet came infinite ways to connect with others across the world, an incredible milestone for humankind, and might I add, one of my favorite milestones. However, with this great ability to access and use data in unprecedented volumes comes a price not many people think that they are paying. That is the data that they send across the airwaves and fiber optic cables on a daily basis. Many of these fabulous services are touted as, quote, free. However, let me assure you that you are indeed paying the price. Data scrapping, as I like to call it, is a silent, invisible, and discreet way of creating a digital profile for every single person who has access to an electronic device. I don't know about you, but I find contests with third parties, whether it be a website, a marketing company, or my own government, compiling a profile of me that I have no avenue of hope of deleting or seeing. I've heard the argument of, I have nothing to hide, which is all well and fine if you truly have nothing to hide. This, however, is not the point I am trying to make, and as each day passes, I see technology becoming more and more intrusive upon our lives, and the apathy of those I speak with is grand. Albert Einstein once said, the world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who do nothing. Yes, Ryan, yes, I understand this is a problem, but what can I do as one person? This is usually the response I get from those I speak with, feeling that they can do nothing about it, and it's too late to do anything, so we might as well just proceed with our lives. This, in my opinion, is a response void of personal responsibility that creates a dangerous precedent for those who wish to enact change. To avoid droning on for too long, I'll get to my point. I don't ask those who engage in online activities to delete their social media accounts in protest. I personally have done so with a few websites and it accomplished little to nothing. I merely ask that you educate yourselves about the infinitely long terms and service agreements you mindlessly click agree on and think about and think about the ethical and moral issues they raise. I don't think anyone in their right mind would want me to pick up their phone and go through all their personal text messages and contacts right in front of their face. However, this is what you are allowing in a more discreet way every time you download the hottest new app. To conclude, I thank those who have taken the time to listen to me rant about this very important issue, and I hope it has made some impact on the way you think about proceeding with your lives. Remember that as a consumer, you are targeted every hour of every day, and until you take control of how you access information rather than let others do it for you, you are shackled by invisible chains. Please pardon my blunt metaphor, but history has taught me that those who let others do things for them are on a path to eventual servitude and perpetual surveillance. I kindly ask that you talk about this issue with others and do more than brushing it off as a nonsensical topic from a ranting college graduate. Form a discussion group, or better yet, protest those you believe who have abused your information. In my experience, I have found that the streets are where the real power is, where you can discuss and advocate for ideas in a vocal and visible way. Thank you very much for your time. Trust me, this has truly been my pleasure to speak with you today.
All right, thank you very much. And, so that is the end of round one, everyone.
Ooh, that was quick.
Yeah, it was super quick. We're gonna take a wee little break. for like 10 minutes. Get your refills, go to the bathroom, have a little party in your head, do whatever you want. Meet back here in 10 minutes. Accident. All right, this is round 2, everybody. Yeah, thanks for sticking around.
Austin is here.
Yeah.
Almost entirely.
Yeah, it's
Well, here for you.
yeah. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Which is kind of funny because
It is funny.
we're all big part of the Harriett group that just started out.
That's Robin's group, Harriet's group, named after her cat.
Yeah, the picture on the back. Yeah.
Yeah,
The only one that's missing is Madeline, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She got a massage.
Yeah, she's gonna start
That
getting
was
here
her
in the
first
fall,
time at the
so,
group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a massage school going now.
Yeah. Otherwise it'd be
Cool. All right. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and start into round 2. So coming up, we've got Thom and Scott. All right, give it up for Thom and Scott.
Hey!
I want to respond to Ray. I really like what you said. Okay? When I left home for the 3rd time, I slept at the university. And people came, I was sleeping between the buildings. They pissed on me because I was drunk. So I realized then that there's no sanctuary on this planet. Anyhow, when my father died, he bequeathed his body to the university. When I did my 1st and 2nd degree. And I went back home because they were thanking the families of people who bequeathed their bodies for medical research, and they tried to explain to people how important it is that to find cures for diseases, you have to deal with the physical human body as it is. And a lot of people have religious or ethical constraints about what happens after you leave, your consciousness leaves. But my feeling is, once your consciousness leaves, that's like after the party, you're not going to be there. So why just give it all? So I did exactly that. I went round to my Angel funeral home around the corner in South Austin. I said, how much do I get for this body? And they could laugh. They said, it's too old. I said, how about parts? We can take parts.
How about before I go?
Yeah, I tried that too. And they said, I'll tell you what we'll do for you. Exactly what you said. We'll give you a cremation after we take the parts that we can use for viable research, and you get the free disposal of your remains. I thought, good deal. I'm not going to be around. I'm not going to feel a thing. It's like a dentist with extra drugs. So I thought to myself, I've made a deal with the universe. My deal is, this consciousness in this moment now is the only presence of any consequence that can ever be. And if we're not present, it's like we're dead already. If we can't find the right word, the right feeling, the right moment, then there is no point in gathering, because we're not really here, are we? And I often ask this because when I spoke to Robin and I spoke to Scott, we were talking about those times between worlds when you don't know where you are. Like sometimes I go the wrong side of the car, I forget what country I'm in. Sometimes I drive down the wrong side of the road for 200 miles before the beating of horns wakes me up. And people ask, when do you sleep? You're writing poems all the time. I say, when I'm driving. I'm a multitasker. I think, why waste all that time? Well, it's right. I'm pointing the way. He knows. And he was talking on the way here about a friend of his, Miss Homer, died. And this morning I spent time with a friend, a really good friend, whose father had died. Now he's more conservative, shall we say, than anything I could ever be, but I really liked him because he had a mind that was extremely good at listening, absorbing and responding, but he wasn't into argument. He was simply into, okay, as the Indians say, the hutchow moment, but what's the closest we can get, the arrow of truth? How close can we get to what's really true? A lot of people say silence is, but I don't agree. But you know, silence is a language too. You can be thinking, he's talking shit again. And straight away, you know, you've got this sort of like, this barrier of silence between me and you. And you think, wait a minute, silence is being used as a wall. When you're in a place that you're not really comfortable, you go inside yourself like a little temple. And you withdraw and become small. and you walk outside this world, the world does that to you. Main character says, you're not part of this, you're old. Or you're not, you haven't got the right hair, or you're not the right body shape, or the right political opinions. Well, that's right, we haven't. And that's why we have to make our own spaces where we can be not necessarily right, but at least hearing each other. Because the hearing is the poem. People think it's the words that are the poem, but when I heard what you were saying, I responded with the life experience of my father and the life experience of my future, which is exactly what your story was about. And yet also the question is, what shall we do until that moment goes, and that moment of oblivion comes? Well, that oblivion can happen any day when we lose it, you know? Oh, God, where am I? What's happening? Where are my keys? My car, my cash, my cat, my garbage? What's happened? I've lost myself. I used to have a body. Where am I? And then suddenly you wake up and realize you're dreaming again. Those are the magic moments. And that's what I live for.
It's really weird. I don't have to do this thing anymore.
That's good for you.
Thank you, Louise.
All right. Thank you, Thom, and thank you, Scott.
Caught you dreaming.
All right. Coming up next, we have Louise. Yay!
Well, there's a certain kind of little girl who likes pink. Everything is pink, and rainbows, and unicorns, and glitter.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a TV show where they had one of these little girls and maybe a commercial. And I thought, well, do these little girls grow out of this? And some probably do, and some probably don't. So this is called Pink Girls.
It's air conditioning.
Oh, okay. All
Sorry?
right. I'm going crazy. Sorry.
No, you're not crazy. You're one of us.
Pink Girls. Pink girls are not always pink. Pink girls are not forever pink. No matter what you say or think, pink girls are not always all day as pink. Pink girls can grow up tough. Pink girls can be fierce enough. And don't think that they don't know their stuff. Pink girls can think off the cuff. Pink girls may stay mild and sweet, may love long and be discreet. Pink girls may be mild and sweet and sweep a man right off his feet. A pink girl may come late in life, through many years of lonely strife, of secret struggles, fraud and rife, to realize she's not a wife. Pink girls may be many things, evolving with whatever life brings, into various and sundry things, until the day they find their wings.
Yay! She did a rhyming poem.
I do that sometimes.
She does that.
All right. Thank you, Louise.
Yeah.
And coming up next is me. Hey, potato, potato. Are y'all familiar with that song?
Yeah.
Potato.
You say
Oh, yes. You say potato.
Well, there's supposed to be like a Teletubbies or the Weebles or some sort. Like they redid it, and so I would be performing at open mics, and then people would start singing that to me, and I'm like, I don't know. All right, I'll join.
You gonna do a quill for us?
Do what?
Dan Quill for us?
It's before your time.
Oh yeah, I know who Dan Quill is, but I was like knee-high to a grasshopper when I knew.
Well, it's potato life you should know about that.
Oh, is he the one that spelled with the spelling of potato? Yeah.
He was running for VP or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Under
do.
the first George Bush.
Because I still have friends when they'll type my name, they'll spell it with an O-E. I'm like, it's not. If it's plural, it's an O-E. But
By itself.
yes, by itself, it's just the O.
Oh,
I'll have to think of some sort of device. Maybe that's the next poem that I'm going to write. So this is actually the bar where I kind of got this nickname, where I would perform a lot at, and they really embraced the idea of Potato Mike and started calling me it, shouting it out. It's a downtown bar and grill in Victoria, Texas. That's where we do almost all of our shows. It's a great, great place. And I have a family down there. It's the same group of people, the same performers, the same musicians. Every weekend, we all support each other. It's so great.
Yes.
So this is called the Encore at Downtown Bar and Grill. An ideal. After the music fades, we gravitate to the smoker's patio, where our ears recover to the twinkle of bottles exchanging and the crackle of cups collapsing. After such a show, silence must inevitably come to clear the stage, to let the dust settle for sips and smiles, to give rise to smoke rings and raised eyebrows, to let idle chit-chat go through the paces, so conversation may fill up the spaces. Here are the acts and plays of all, where the audience's participation means just as much as the performer's presentation.
Yeah.
Where inside we created our currency, but out here is where we spent it.
Yeah.
Reveling in the tangle of a good yarn, delighting in the unraveling of a twisted thread. Then, only slightly sober, but far more sane, we'll celebrate the night's end by singing, "Hurrah, hurrah, one toast for us all. Hurrah, hurrah, this is the last call." Thank you. And coming up next, we have Robin.
Was someone had a reason for writing the poem I wrote that I read before? It was the neighborhood, the restaurant that I wrote about in the neighborhood for 30-something years, I think. Now, however, I'm going to write for this round and the next round, I'm going to talk about writing poetry. And so you're all grown now. If you want you to sing a poem about poetry. Poetry. Yeah. Okay. So this one is why I write poetry. It's called All You Need to Know About Me. I don't like to let the language get in the way of the poem. A good formalist is something I will never be. A childhood gardener, I loved St. Emily's broken stems, but it wasn't until I read a Minor Williams poem called The Lonely Street that poetry became an escape goal for me. So much depends on clarity, like the direct light here in Austin. You could say I write poems to the sun from the point of view of immediate contact by the retina of the pen. Poems to the moon because the moon is the light that I write the measure of each day to the tabloid of my life. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Robin. All right, coming up next, we have Mr. Ray Hatch.
Hip hip hooray!
Hooray! This one is called Late Night Ruminations on the Mexican Bus. Over the course of my life, few things have given me the sense of exhilaration that I feel when crossing the border heading south. With the document in my pocket granting me 6 months in Mexico, along with enough money to last a duration. Rolling down the highway in the middle of the night, I hear the whirring drone of the engine and someone snoring up toward the front of the bus. The curtains are pulled and I can't see the road, but I can hear it as the tires roll ceaselessly along. I pull back the curtain to look out on the moonlit desert, passing by at 95 kilometers per hour, but appearing to stand still. I had sensed its vastness the day before when I saw the tiny figure of a man on a bicycle going God knows where. As minuscule as he was, though, I could tell that he, along with his little puff of dust, was much closer to me than he was to the mountains in the far, far distance, who knows how many miles away. The multitude of cactus punctuate the void, and images of prowling coyotes and scurrying rodents spring to mind, as well as slithering lizards and rattlesnakes in search of their next meal. I've read that the desert was once called the Gran Chichimeca, home of the dog people. How did they scratch a living in this hostile terrain? They were hunters and gatherers, of course, but surely there are better places to gather. Surely there are more promising places to hunt. We were all once nomads, and in many of us the nomad gene is dominant. Like it or not, it carries us to faraway places. I remember reading about a class of men called Huastecas who crossed this vast and hospitable desert on foot with heavy packs on their backs. From the Valley of Mexico, they carried finely crafted obsidian tools to the distant place in the north that we now call Arizona. And on the way back, they carried loads of brightly colored stone. Blue and green were sacred to the Aztecs, as any uncovered tomb will show. They sent men on foot 1,000 miles to the north for turquoise, and 1,000 miles to the south for the brilliant emerald plumes of the resplendent quetzal that dwells in the lush tropical rainforest of what we now call Central America. Resplendent quetzal indeed. Don't we featherless bipeds give splendid names to our winged friends, both real and imagined? Consider the wandering albatross, the nuthatch, the roseate spoonbill, the obscene bird of the night, and the frumious bandersnatch. What names, I wonder, the feathered taxonomists have for us? The hairy-chested nut scratcher, the bikini-bottomed nipple check. It is late, and I have yet to sleep. The mind wanders from the ridiculous to the sublime and back again, with only the most tangential linkage. Every day, scientists make new discoveries about the circuitry of the brain, but they'll never decipher the mysteries of the mind, much less the soul. They can get the measure of man, but not the meaning. They can read the menu, but they cannot savor the banquet. So saith the sage in scene 34, who some might take to be just another old fart. But what do they know? Tomorrow morning, we will reach the great metropolis that was once mighty Tenochtitlan. I will linger there a few days, strolling its boulevards, prowling its alleys, browsing its bookstores, and idling in its cafes before resuming the journey to my final destination, Oaxaca. I've long had a longing to have one more coffee on the marvelous Zocalo, sitting beneath graceful Spanish arches and towering Indian laurels, gazing on the golden light of the late afternoon sun as it caresses the pale green stone of the cathedral wall. I used to wonder, when taking off for distant parts, whether it was the last time that I'd see my parents alive. Many times I had that thought, and many times I saw them again. But finally, their time did come. One of the many things that disturbs us about our parents' deaths is that it makes us orphans. It leaves us with no one standing guard between us and eternity. We are now on the front lines. We're next in line to go. I'm not obsessed with the hereafter, if there be such a thing. Reclaim the subjunctive, you're back in Mexico. Though I sometimes wonder where they'll spread my ashes. I'd just as soon they be scattered in Mexico or Andalusia. on Bali or on Naxos, or any of the many places where I had felt more at peace than in my native land, the self-proclaimed real world where militant ignorance strikes the dominant disorder. We pull off into a roadside rest stop. I get off and wander a little ways from the glare of the neon restaurant, and with feet planted firmly on the desert floor, I stand beneath the far-flung dome of stars. I unzip and let go, and in a flash, I'm at one with all creation, connected to the heavens by a cosmic beam, and connected to the earth by a golden stream. I'm fully integrated with the infinite continuum. Soon I'll re-enter time and get back on the bus that will carry me ever farther south, ever further south of reality. Good to see you.
All right, thank you, Ray. All right, coming up next we have Mr. Ben Franklin. Give it up for Ben Franklin, everybody. Yay! And also, welcome. Do you plan on reading or just listening? All right, that's awesome. All right, just in time.
So many times, being a poet, people say, well, that's not poetry, that's enough. So I was having a little fun with this one. And the word is N-A-U-G-H-T. This is not a poem. Twist and taunt, wound so tight. To be not regimented poetry. Elongated into complex words that pound titillation meaning upon collegiate doctoral dissertation in poetry solved with degrees dictionary. Truncuation, chop mental, menial mental shit of diarrhea, free verse plops, slishy splashy upon the wet bottom, bearing collegiate scholar TP opinion. God, one needs a prissy bachelorette degree, master's, doctorate, MPF, RNC, frick diploma, doctor poets who feed upon chemical castration, in collegiate press platform shoes and elite elevation, where verse has no flower child, wild rainbow colors. A perfect rose poet is quite a thorny sight, insight perfect pronoun, noun, distinct pronunciation, split and polished poetic perfection, onomatopoeia farts. So some poets want to upchuck constipated iambic pentameter into some rap, hip-hop, and spoken word biodiversity. Oh, the treason to want to convict rebel rascal rousers as conflict of interest conservative condemnation judges, to hang them in effigy inside a Republican poetry country club. Hellhole of poem collegiate conformity in program society, who is fraught unison state. This is not a poem.
All right, and coming up next we have Scott. Give it up for Scott, everybody. Great Scott! Great Scott! Great Scott indeed.
Did you see they made a comedy of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, synopsis. Yeah, pretty good.
I like that setup. Give me a little bit more freedom. Let's get good.
So what do you do with a room full of people who all have such vivid imagination? And where do you focus their attention just for a brief second, you might see the same thing. I've sat on plazas before, in Mexico, at Tulum. Starbucks up on Anderson, I believe. But the place I like to go best is an open mic, where in the center of the room, might get conjured starfields, butterflies, and things. And it's not as if the artist is doing all the work, because he ain't alone, no more than the guy riding the wagon. It's pulling. It's about being a vehicle, or a medium, you might say. And what I'm seeing here now is the star field with Christmas lights all around, and it ain't June, just recently turned May. It's December. And this is Christmas Eve. And outside, all the kids are not celebrating graduation. The New Year is coming up soon. I have two of my own, of which you probably can tell I'm very fond. So what do you wish for on Christmas Day? For me it was absolution. From all those things I told myself I should have done and didn't. Maybe if you think about yourself, there might be some of those for you too. Pardon me, one of them. It always does when you do. So Christmas morning comes, tomorrow we leave here, or in a while. Maybe it'll be a tune, you know. Found out today I have a friend who believes in the moon more than the sun. And I've held that great glowing ball in my head the same way a tree might on a sunny day. And the only thing I found out with my mind up there around it wasn't, or I should say, it wasn't in my mind alone. It's just a tune. Just a sunny day after Christmas morning comes. Everybody can hear this one coming. Is present. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Scott. And you know what? That is in fact the end of round 2. Yeah, you're just reading. Right. Yeah. So yeah, that is the end of round 2, everybody. Awesome. And we're gonna come back in 15 minutes or so. So coming up next, we have Thom the World Poet. It's Scott. Yay!
And this is for Michael. It's a thank you for every person in this room. Because the question we always ask is, in a world of wars, where do we find the words that will bring in peace and harmony? We were having a conversation the other day about where have the elders gone? The elders are grandmother and grandfather wisdom. The storytellers, the griots, curanderos, the ones who carry down a linear tradition of secrets and mysteries that were no mystery to those that knew them. But the young had to know them. When I was leaving my homeland buying plastic artifacts, men said, "What are you buying that for?" I said, "I'm going to a barbarian land, and they need to know there were indigenous people." He said, "I'm a storyteller." I said, "Well, what's your totem?" He said, "Frog drinking." Now, Uluru is the main rock and the main legend is the rainbow serpent. And one time, just for no apparent reason, I was at Uluru, and it hadn't rained for 10 years. And on that particular time, it rained. And I saw 10 waterfalls come over the rock, just rising up over the rock, splashing down. The colour of the rock changed from red to orange to grey to black in about 15 minutes. The point of the story is that I realized what the rainbow serpent was. Snakes live near water. Serpents. Water is the rainbow serpent. Where to find it? No straight lines in nature. The tracks, the stories. When we are the storytellers, we have to recognize that we don't have the grandmother, grandfather wisdom anymore, but we have to carry on the tradition of sharing the secrets and mysteries. And that is where the curandera, the pilgrim, the griot, the dramatist, the singer, the songman, the magpie man, the clamadore. It's an ancient tradition to carry the song line on. And of course it used to be oral. Before it was written down, it was a song. Of course, it was whispered voice to ear, as a mystery always is, and shared with those who can hear, because we've forgotten how to listen. We're taught how to talk, but who teaches people how to listen? I often thought of staying in college for listening. The first year, you'd listen to the trees, how they change over seasons, the crinkle of autumn, the bare bones of winter, the effulgence of spring, and the heat of summer. The second year, you listen to the sea, the springs, the creeks, the rivers, because they all have different tongues. When you hear a river that's rushing fast and free, it's a lip, lip, lap, lap. When it's all dammed up, it's constipated and can't move, heavy and dull, torpid mud. When it's coming down as rain, it's splitter and splatter and splash and storm. When it's held in a bottle by amateur corporation, it's plastic, fluoride, worn. We are water. We are earth. We are stars. Before the moment of our birth, we were whispered stories. Of course, we've forgotten them. We've forgotten our futures and our past. And that is why we come to places like this, sanctuaries, where we rediscover ourselves in someone else. They say something and spark something. And what you said about, 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 and what you said about took me on the Mexican bus down past the valley, where the stories have other accents and dialects, histories, traditions, where they have their storytellers and their griots. But just for one evening in San Marcos, we are here not to wake the dead, but to awaken to ourselves.
All right. Thank you, Thom, and thank you, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah. Love that. All right, coming up next, we have Louise.
Thank you. Now the benediction.
Oh.
Peace be with you. Peace be with you, whatever your peace may be. My peace may not be yours. Your peace may not work for me. If your peace is drinking in a murky bar or smoking out back by the dumpster, you may not, I may not want to go along with that. You may not enjoy the peace of nature, of birds and trees and quiet streams. My peace of fairness and tolerance and respect may clash with your peace of dominance, Vladimir Putin.
Oh!
And the need to always have your way. Your peace may be your race, your faith, your politics, with the total absence of whatever I'm all about. But the true peace is not yours or mine or anybody's. It is a truce between us, among every one of us. That is the hardest lesson to learn about peace. It is not an absolute good. it is a common good. Compromise found somewhere in middle ground. There is nothing easy about it, but it is essential. So let's sing the old song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Thank you.
And me.
All right, I like that message of peace. All right, your next poet, this is a guy talking to the mic, your host.
Potato.
Potato Mike. Potato Mike. Thanks, yeah. Thanks for shouting it out like that. All right, this is one I wrote quite a while back. Sometimes I'm just sitting somewhere and I have my little journal with me, and a person will catch my eye, and I'll have to write something about them. So I was actually waiting in the doctor's office, which is just, well, we all know what that's like.
Yeah.
So unless you're doing something creative or something like that, it's mind-numbing. Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrifying. So this was written in a doctor's office. It's called From A B to Z. A random encounter, a chance delight. She sat in a chair, which may have well been a lounging couch. I sat next to her, in a chair that may have well been bathing in her sunlight. And by the casualty of a magazine that she was merely browsing, the furnace in my chest was fueled and stoked into a fire for our conversing. Still, nervous as a bee approaching an unfamiliar flower, I buzz like the bumbling bee only I can be. Being careful not to be alert with my bobble. Being careful not to wobble, tilt, or topple, but to merely give, flutter by flutter, so I may land as sensual as a feather. But instead, I proved my previous bee behavioral thesis with a fall and fail, with a thump on my rump. That's followed by a blurt of some improvised blubbery. Discovered, that's a great magazine. Are you a subscriber? I am. I see you're reading about one of my favorite subjects too. You know, what do you think about all that nanotechnology? All those minuscule robots acting in our favor with their hive-like mentality. She laughs, and I struggle to gauge her range. Oh, I'm just casually reading. I'm not too familiar with any of that nano stuff. I push up my glasses and straighten up in my chair. Oh, well, hell, the possibilities are mind-boggling. They're infinitesimal. I'm sorry, they're infinite. Infinite. I'm so nervous. Then looking into her eyes, I added, but of course they're brilliantly altering as they are dangerously threatening.
Yeah.
She folds her magazine and pivots to me. Really? You sound so psyched about them. Are you some sort of science major? I'm netted, tangled in her eyes, and released only to stare down at my feet. No, just a science geek. If anything, I'd be a journal major, doubling and dabbling at a lover of life from A to Z. My nervous tickles at me, but I'm merely grateful that I didn't sketch her a complete stereotype by chortling as well. She chuckles again, this time in a pitch that I cannot catch, although I'm already needlessly cursing myself over the miss. Oh, so you're double majoring in some fake degrees and a lover of life from A to Z. Another laugh. This time I know it's jest, but I'm not sure at what. But instead of lamenting over paranoid speculations, I'm picking up these specks of nature, of hazelnut in her oaken eyes. And I'm stammering for any specks of conversation from the ruination of my tries. No, I mean, yes, I love anything. Well, almost anything. Whatever celebrates life, anything that explores reality. So yeah, all these things, A to Z, from Aesop's fables to, you know, stuff like zodiac symbols. I shame myself with my forehead and palm, and my shoulders quake while my head shakes. But she laughs, this time in a rhythm with me that I cannot mistake, for it's the sound of candy unwrapping, of a jolly rancher undressing. From Aesop to the zodiac, and really all those letters in between. One of her eyebrows lifts and suddenly I'm darting. From that flower to the floor, from those vibrant eyes to my dull toes. Yeah. I'm definitely not lying when it comes to something so fleeting. I sense and hint. An uncomfortable silence verging on becoming a pregnant pause, and I eject. I'm sorry, I was just trying to be stupid or silly, whichever, really. Her eyes brighten and those specks shimmer like lacquer in the light. And I am awkward at the level beyond a wobbly toddler or a tipsy bee. And before I can summon all the courage as young Arthur did before Excalibur, a man comes out of the bathroom and says to her, "Hey honey, I'm ready, let's go." She puts down her magazine and tells me it was a pleasure. I nod in honest agreement, but with a somber smile as my place card. When she's out the door, I crack my journal open and I start my pen buzzing.
Yeah! Beautiful! Yeah!
All right, coming up next we have Robin.
Loving on what's happening when she comes bobbing along. Song, wake up, quickly, steamhead. Cheer up, get out of bed. Wait. The sun is red.
You have your own like theme music. That's great.
Yeah, it does. Okay, let's see. Hold on just a second. I need to put my password back in. I thought I was looking
Does anybody know her password?
at.
All right.
Harriett?
It's really easy with my mom. Her password is exactly like mine, except for one. She basically asked me what my password was, and then she changed one word out of
It's
it.
a good way to remember it.
Yeah. And it's a good way to remember mine too. I see what she was doing.
Yeah.
This is the thing that
This is
is hard.
Can you sit?
No, you can use one school to sit that on and you can sit on the other.
Yeah.
I think she needs to press the keys down the way.
I have a friend that's a computer programmer, and he was saying how they have to have different passwords for everything. I was like, how do you? And he never writes the passwords down. He's like, how do you remember? He's like, he has a password that's basically the same. The structure of it is the same, but for each website or whatever he's doing, he changes it to fit with that. I was like, okay. And so that's how he's able. He just adds like Gmail before whatever this is, or something like that in some way. That's
This is the second poem about poetry, and you can tell that because poetry is not mentioned in it. It's called It's Personal. Once in a while I sketch and paint, There are a couple of self-portraits of mine floating around somewhere. Not as you might think, because I believe anyone particularly wants to see me, or because I have an unusual need to be remembered. But rather I come in handy to myself. You could say those paintings exist primarily because at a pinch I have access to myself. I don't need to go far to find me, although I'm not immune to geographic cures. So I paint pictures of me specifically because I'm not unusual. I think there's something common to all of us. So to be logical, I have as much of it as anyone else. At around 2 a.m. after a couple of pots of coffee, I still want my own company, only because I can't avoid it. I'm an every person and therefore as completely unique as you are, just as wild and boring. I can see you when I want to get out, have fun and see bright lights. But I'm my own perfect model because I see myself and all I want to do is to get some work done. And for reasons not quite clear. I think that's something you can understand as well as I do.
All right, thank you. And coming up next, we have Mr. Ray. Hooray! Hooray!
Hooray!
Okay. A long red scarf.
Watch you stay with that mic.
Yeah, gonna knock someone else out.
An old man forgets. He also remembers. I forget where I took off my shoes last night, but I remember that saloon 50 years ago, where the bartender could slide a full schooner of beer half the length of the bar, so that it came to a stop right in front of the customer without spilling a drop. I forget where I put my new friend's phone number, but I remember that of a girlfriend back in New York, when telephone numbers began with Butterfield 8 or Algonquin 5, and there were no area codes. I remember all those long ago things, but where did I put the utility bill? Is it overdue? And when's my next appointment with the eye doctor? Is that this week? But Katie, who I met at a bus stop on my way to a Brazilian carnival dance back in 1979, I still remember the lavender dress she wore that night and the long red scarf. Is it just a question of remembering what you want to remember and forgetting what you want to forget? There may be something to that, but I really would like to call my new friend, and it gives me no pleasure at all to remember the look of chronic disappointment on my ex-wife's breakfast face, but there it is. Maybe it's simply a matter of potholes in the neural pathways and fraying, rusted cables stretched across ever-widening cerebral canyons. Or could it be that, what was I saying?
I like that ending. All right, coming up next, we have Ben Franklin. Hey, wow.
'Tis Ireland I seek to see. 'Tis Ireland I want to see. 'Tis Ireland I want to touch. 'Tis upon the ground of Ireland I want to make love to poetry. To feel the Irish roots forevermore spring alive, radiant living universe. 'Tis Ireland I want to see. 'Tis Ireland I want to touch. Oh, Ireland, do you speak inside me? I want to ride alight your fresh green Irish spirit, to sail high adrift an Irish jig, casting mystic isle magical line spells. 'Tis Ireland I want to see. 'Tis Ireland I want to touch, to weave a poet's heart stringing verse, woven poetry of fluted Celtic harmony, where heartbeats feel rich inside tranquility in the art of living, resonating Irish auras. 'Tis Ireland I will not see, 'tis Ireland I will not touch. 'Tis not the ground of Ireland I will be making love poetry in. Alas, reality steps in to dampen things, for one must swim or fly too far. 'Tis Ireland I will not see, 'tis Ireland I will not touch. Feel poetry's magnetic gravity, wishing will. Wish I might, wish I may, visit Ireland someday. Daydream create mystic wings aloft Irish tales, whereupon living in a meadow I bear blossoms. Darn English language, I mean Irish blossoms. Now don't be Irish and split a gasket.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pub song if ever I've heard one.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, coming up, we have Scots.
Scott, yes!
Great Scots.
I'm gonna do this without my guitar, so.
Do it.
Just to set the turf to what I call it when you make a building and you strip the ground. Before the foundation, we have to clear the ground. So we're looking at truth and the love of speech and language. And this is a good room for that because it's been a very playful night. Some rooms aren't like that. This one is. I don't know about you, but I can say this. My love of language started very, very early. From the time I knew that I had sort of what later I would realize was actually an affliction, was when I used to sit in the living room of our apartment because my parents didn't have TV, and I would put the speakers on the floor and listen to Shakespeare albums, vinyls.
Yeah.
And I knew I loved it. I knew I loved speech because I could listen to Shakespeare do what he does. And what I knew I loved about him is he plays. He has so much fun just saying things. And in the back of my mind was the thought, come on, Macbeth, don't kill her again. No, Othello, don't kill her again. And so I would do what I do now with Louise and sitting on patios smoking cigarettes, which is hear peace, hear quiet. Yet you get to an open mic and you realize there are times when you're in an audience and you're listening and you're hearing, you can see everything you saw when you wrote it, or when you wrote it, or when you wrote it, or when you wrote it. And there's when you wrote it. I mean, I don't know, but I was hot for the girl, so it gets so exciting, and yet we can do such miraculous things with it. And I feel obliged because my conscience most often gets the better of me, which is why the poems never make it on paper anyway. On one hand, we know in and of itself, loving words and speech and language and playfulness. On one hand, we know that is in and of itself self-evident enough. And yet, we also know there's another side of the coin which says we can do things with the words we say. We can make change. We can invite people in. We can encompass. We can include. We can encourage. I don't know about you, but in my mind, the list is running long and deep of all the great speeches that have ever been made and the changes they affected. I have a dream. And I haven't even heard very many of them. But I've heard some of them. I've heard some fictional, some historic. To be or not to be, which, by the way, I think is bull because I love taking them out. So, I will be the last to speak tonight. Is that right? Or was something in the middle?
No, I think. y'all.
That's it.
So let us take this from what we shared here tonight. Camaraderie. Oh, a good word. Companionship. Love, harmony, joy, remembrance, faith, fear, apprehension, reminiscence. The one that matters most is not only encouragement, but hope. This, thank you, Michael, does make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
It broadens our heart, it expands our ears, it opens our eyes to the fact that inside each and every one of us is a soul that just wants to share itself with everybody else. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. Not because there is a cornucopia of food on my table, because I'm poverty-stricken, but because there is something grand to be thankful for, that we have people of like mind and like spirit to share it with. I feel so blessed for you being here, for all y'all being here. It's such glad tidings. It's no wonder the Christmas lights are out. Soon you will go home, and I, for one, and I think I'm in a position to say this, I speak for everyone else, we will have such sweet dreams.
What a very appropriate note to end that on.
Yeah.
Girls wanna have anything?
Did y'all have anything to read?
Sure.
Well, y'all came right at the tail end. This is San Marcos Poetry Night. We meet the first Thursday of every month. And we have 3 rounds. It's round robin. So if y'all do write, if you know anyone that does write, tell them to come along. This is probably one of the warmest groups that you will ever find in the history of the United States, of the universe, of anywhere, all possible realms, multiverses, everything. So once again, this is San Marcos Poetry Night. I am your host.
Cheers.
Potato Night, yes. And chairs, if y'all can help me, if I can get just a few volunteers to help me sort of put the chairs up and get a few tables back in, that'd be awesome. But yeah, that's it. So thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for presenting. Give it up for yourselves.
Yeah.